Think for a moment about all the things you struggle with, every fear, every self-doubt. What if they weren't just obstacles to conquer, but rather a map that leads you to your true purpose? Consider this. What if the secret to understanding your identity and purpose is hidden in the aspects of yourself that you have attempted to ignore, repress, or deny? Today, we will examine one of the most revolutionary ideas in the fields of psychology and philosophy, Carl Jung's theory of the shadow. This is not simply a matter of theory or abstract concepts. It is about discovering deep truths that have the potential to change your life. At the end of this journey, you will not only have a better understanding of your shadow, but you will also learn how it contains the key to your purpose, your potential, and your freedom. The last insight we will discover is probably the most significant and transformative of all. Carl Jung, who was one of the first people to study depth psychology, thought that the shadow is the part of ourselves that we do not accept or acknowledge. It is made up of all the characteristics, desires, and elements of our personality that we find to be unpleasant or embarrassing. However, in a strange twist of fate, this very shadow has the potential for our most significant qualities and the plan for a satisfying existence. Consider this. How frequently do we refrain from thinking or acting in a specific way because it makes us feel uneasy? How frequently do we criticize other people for characteristics that we secretly see in ourselves? If you have ever found yourself responding emotionally to something someone else did, it is likely because they have touched on a portion of your own shadow. Jung himself once remarked, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." The shadow is not only about gloom. It is also about possibility. It has to do with the energy we suppress because we are too afraid or embarrassed to confront it. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there aspects of yourself that you try to conceal from others or even from yourself? It could be a dread of failure, a deep-seated wrath, or a continuous feeling of envy. It could be a passion or desire that you have persuaded yourself is unreasonable or incorrect. What if these parts of you were not something that needed to be fixed, but rather messages that were waiting to be understood? Carl Jung thought that if we face our shadow, we can incorporate it into our conscious knowledge. This, he believed, would lead to individuation, which is the process of being whole. This is not simple. It takes bravery, truthfulness, and the readiness to enter into the unknown. However, the benefits are beyond measure. According to Jung, individuation is the process of finding out who you really are. This is not just the persona you show to the world, but also the whole and authentic self that encompasses both light and shadow. He contended that the best way for us to evolve is not by denying our shadow, but by accepting it. Think about this. Every hero in mythology has to confront their own darkness at some point. Consider the Greek hero Hercules, who had to fight against not only external monsters, but also his own rage and flaws. Or think of Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, who had to confront the darkness within himself before he could truly become a Jedi. These stories reflect our own psychological journeys. The question is, are you prepared to take the first step? Are you prepared to confront the aspects of yourself that you have been avoiding and ask, what lesson are you trying to teach me? According to Jung's philosophy, our shadow is not an enemy, but rather a guide. It speaks to us in our dreams, our worries, and even in our relationships. Have you ever had a dream that you have had before, or had an unexplainable attraction to a specific person or idea? These could be indications that your shadow is attempting to get in touch with you. The first step in working with your shadow is to become aware of it. Be aware of the feelings and responses that seem out of proportion or extreme. These are frequently indicators of the parts of yourself that you have kept hidden. After you have recognized these characteristics, the next stage is to accept them. This does not mean that you should act on every urge or give in to every want. Instead, it means that you should recognize these aspects of yourself without judging them and understand how they fit into your life. Think about how freeing it would be to stop being afraid of your imperfections and, instead, view them as opportunities for development. Consider how much more genuine and self-assured you could be if you accepted every part of yourself. In the following sections, we will explore in greater detail how you might recognize and incorporate your shadow. We will discover practical strategies for transforming what feels like darkness into light, and we will examine how this integration might help you find your life's purpose. And remember, the most deep knowledge is still to come. Stay with us, because by the end of this adventure, you'll have a blueprint not only for understanding your shadow, but for employing it as a guide to your destiny. Let's continue this voyage into the depths of your inner universe and explore the tremendous potential that lies within. Let's explore the enigmatic realm of the shadow and see how gaining insight into this concealed part of yourself can not only help you find your purpose, but also provide you with a deep sense of tranquility. The shadow can show itself in many different ways, including our habits, our relationships, and notably in our reactions. Have you ever experienced an emotional outburst and questioned subsequently why you reacted so strongly? When your emotions seem to take over your ability to think logically, that is often when your shadow is showing itself. But why does the shadow have such power over us? According to Jung, it originates from its unconscious nature. The more we refuse to accept or hide a part of ourselves, the more power it has over us. In a sense, it's like attempting to hold a beach ball underwater. The more power you use, the more forcefully it resurfaces until you can no longer keep it down. Consider this. If you were able to bring that buried part of yourself to the surface and understand where it came from, how much more power would you have over your life? How much more free would you feel? The concept of projection is one of the most convincing examples of shadow work. According to Jung, when we reject certain aspects of ourselves, we tend to notice such features in other people, which causes us to react to them more strongly. For example, if you have a hard time feeling like you are good enough, you may find yourself judging people who appear to be overly confident or ignoring those who are better than you at things that make you feel uneasy. This is not merely a psychological quirk. It is a reflection. The world shows us the aspects of ourselves that we have not yet recognized. According to Jung, the greatest approach to deal with the darkness of other people is to realize your own darkness. Take a moment to think. Is there someone in your life who causes you to have a strong emotional reaction? It could be a coworker, a friend, or even a member of your family. Rather than concentrating on their actions, consider asking yourself, what does this reaction reveal about me? What part of my shadow am I projecting onto them? This is not about blaming yourself. It is about learning more about yourself. Each projection is an opportunity to recover a bit of yourself and bring it into the light of awareness. Let's take this concept further by analyzing how the shadow relates to our mission. Often, the pieces of ourselves we suppress are tightly related to our particular gifts and passions. For instance, a person who is afraid of failing and therefore stifles their creativity may discover that by accepting this repressed aspect of themselves, they are able to realize their true calling. According to Jung, purpose is not something that we discover outside of ourselves. Rather, it is something that we find within ourselves. It involves being in harmony with our true selves, which encompasses both the positive and negative aspects. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." So, what is the first step in this alignment process? It begins with self-reflection. Ask yourself questions that make you think about your beliefs around your identity. What do I dread most about myself? What things about myself have I been told are unacceptable? What aspirations or hobbies have I given up on because they seemed unrealistic or unimportant? Make a note of these and think about them. When you give your shadow a voice, you may be shocked by what comes out. Journaling is another effective method for shadow work. Jung himself kept lengthy journals, utilizing them to investigate his unconscious mind. He frequently urged his patients to record their dreams because dreams provide a direct connection to the unconscious mind. In your dreams, the shadow frequently emerges in symbolic form, taking the shape of a person, an animal, or even an event. Be aware of any symbols or themes that keep coming up, and think about what your unconscious mind might be trying to tell you. Now, let's consider the transformative power of integrating the shadow. Picture a painter who will not use dark colors in their artwork. While their paintings may be attractive, they do not have much depth or contrast. When we accept our shadow, we become like an artist who employs the complete range of colors, both light and dark, to create a masterpiece. Integration does not imply acting on every dark desire or allowing the darkness to take control of your life. Rather, it involves recognizing and accepting these qualities as part of what it means to be human. This acceptance encourages compassion for both yourself and others. You start to realize that everyone has a shadow, and this common experience creates a deep connection between us. Accepting your shadow is not something that happens just once. It is a process that lasts a lifetime. It takes patience, bravery, and a dedication to improving oneself. However, the benefits are significant. You gain a better understanding of your purpose, a greater sense of inner peace, and the ability to live authentically. And here's an important point. Your purpose is not solely about you. According to Jung, the process of individuation that each of us goes through adds to the collective unconscious, which is the pool of experiences that all humans share. When you confront your shadow and align with your actual self, you don't simply alter your own life. You inspire and elevate people around you. In the next section, we will discuss the practical measures you may take to incorporate your shadow into your everyday life. We'll address how embracing this hidden side can lead to healthier relationships, increased creativity, and a life that feels fully aligned with who you are. The most profound truth is still to come. Stay with us as we learn the ultimate revelation about your shadow and how it holds the key to your destiny. As we explore farther into the depths of Jungian philosophy, let's focus on how to use the insights of shadow work in everyday life. Understanding your shadow is a tremendous start, but ultimate transformation occurs via integration. This is the point at which you start to incorporate your concealed characteristics into the essence of who you are, bridging the gap between awareness and action. Practicing radical self-honesty is one of the first steps in this process. This is about examining yourself without making excuses or using filters. It takes bravery to say, "Yes, I feel jealous," or "Yes, I sometimes judge others unfairly." However, the important thing to remember is that being honest with yourself is not about judging yourself. It is about being aware of yourself. Think about it like cleaning a crowded room. You can't organize or make use of the area until you first accept the clutter. In the same manner, you can't incorporate your shadow until you realize its presence. A practical strategy to begin this exercise is by paying attention to your emotional triggers. The next time you feel a strong reaction, whether it's anger, fear, or even excessive admiration, pause and ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? What does this situation reveal about me? Is there a part of myself I'm projecting onto this person or event? For example, if you find yourself irritated by someone who seems overly confident, consider whether this irritation stems from a part of yourself that feels insecure, or perhaps their confidence reminds you of a trait you've suppressed, your own desire to step into the spotlight. At first, this process of self-inquiry may feel uncomfortable. Although it may be tempting to respond with blame or defensiveness, keep in mind that the purpose is not to judge yourself, but to gain a better understanding of yourself. Every trigger is an opportunity to gain a better understanding of yourself. After you have recognized the different parts of your shadow, the next step is to have a conversation. Jung frequently advised his patients to interact with their shadow as if it were a distinct being. This may seem strange, but it is a method for bringing these hidden aspects to the surface and gaining insight into them. Picture yourself sitting across from your shadow and asking it questions, such as, "What makes you feel this way? What are you attempting to keep me safe from? What can I do to make you feel recognized?" You can engage in this discourse by journaling, meditating, or visualizing. The objective is to establish an environment in which your shadow feels acknowledged and understood. Keep in mind that your shadow is not your enemy. It is a part of you that has been attempting to protect or guide you in its own imperfect way. For many people, this procedure results in unexpected discoveries. You may realize that a worry you've carried for years derives from a childhood trauma, or that a trait you've suppressed is actually a power waiting to be unleashed. Now, let's have a look at how this integration affects your relationships. The shadow not only affects your internal world, but it also determines how you relate to other people. In many cases, unresolved portions of your shadow show themselves as conflict or stress in your relationships. Have you ever found yourself in a scenario where you keep getting into arguments with someone about the same thing? Or maybe you've found that you tend to attract the same kind of spouse, or that you have similar issues in your relationships. These patterns may provide insight into unresolved shadow dynamics. Jung thought that relationships work as mirrors, reflecting our unconscious back to us. When you get provoked by someone, It is usually because they exhibit a characteristic or behavior that is similar to your own shadow. You may turn disagreement into growth by becoming aware of this dynamic. Rather than criticizing or resenting the other person, ask yourself, what is this scenario teaching me about myself? This change in viewpoint not only increases your self-awareness, but it also promotes compassion and understanding. Let's develop this notion further. In what ways might accepting your shadow improve your creativity and sense of purpose? According to Jung, the shadow is not only a place where negative traits are stored, but it is also the source of potential that has not yet been realized. You can use the energy that you spend on suppressing your shadow to pursue creative activities. For instance, anger that is kept under control might become a motivating factor for social change or advocacy. Artistic expression or public speaking may be motivated by a concealed need for attention. When you integrate your shadow, you get back the energy that you used to hide it in the first place. This lets you use that energy for things that are in line with who you really are. Consider some of the most influential artists, writers, and leaders in history. Their work typically demonstrates a profound connection to their personal shadows. For example, Frida Kahlo's paintings are full of genuine passion and unflinching honesty about sorrow and identity. Martin Luther King Jr. took his indignation at injustice and turned it into a movement that changed the world. According to Jung, creativity is a technique to achieve individuation. He felt that by engaging in creative activities, whether through art, writing, or even problem-solving, we access portions of our unconscious, including the shadow. Now think about your own life. Have you ever put aside any ambitions or initiatives because they seemed too hazardous or made you feel vulnerable? What if they were the exact expressions of your actual nature that are just waiting to come out? When you start to include your shadow, you will observe a change. The characteristics and emotions that used to feel like a burden or a source of embarrassment will become sources of strength and knowledge. You will experience a more real, confident, and purposeful life. In the next and last segment, we'll disclose the ultimate truth about your shadow and how embracing it may lead to significant transformation, not only for yourself, but for the world around you. Stay with us as we find the ultimate, most profound insight that will tie everything together and highlight the way to your highest potential. As we reach the end of this voyage, let's take a minute to think on the importance of what we have discovered. The shadow is the part of ourselves that we hide and often fear. It is not a burden to carry. Rather, it is a gift that is ready to be revealed. It is the source of our originality, our inventiveness, and in the end, our reason for being. However, what does it mean to fully accept your shadow? And how can this act of integration change not only your inner world, but also the way you interact with the world around you? In order to answer these concerns, we must first acknowledge a truth that Jung himself emphasized. We cannot reach completeness by rejecting aspects of ourselves. Unity is the source of wholeness, which is achieved by bringing all aspects of ourselves into harmony. Jung is well known for saying, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This quote captures the spirit of shadow work, which is not about denying the darkness but rather about understanding it, accepting it, and using it to drive your growth. So, how do you make the darkness aware of itself? One powerful method is by showing weakness. When you honestly admit your worries, insecurities, and weaknesses, you take away their power to control you. Being vulnerable is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It means that you are willing to declare, "This is who I am, and I am enough." Think about the relationships you have in your life. How frequently do we wear masks, revealing only the aspects of ourselves that we believe other people would approve of? Even though this tendency is reasonable, it makes it difficult for us to connect with each other on a deeper level. When you accept your shadow, you give yourself the freedom to be your true self, which allows other people to see and adore you for who you truly are. This type of authenticity is attractive. It pulls people in, encourages trust, and helps to create deeper, more significant relationships. Furthermore, it is not only about personal connections. It is also about the influence you may have on the globe. You will no longer be in conflict with yourself once you integrate your shadow. This inner tranquility spreads outward, affecting how you face challenges, opportunities, and even your mission. You become a person who operates from a place of wholeness rather than division. Let's consider purpose from this perspective. A lot of people spend their lives looking for a sense of meaning, thinking that it is something outside of themselves that they need to find. However, Jung teaches us that purpose comes from within. This is the natural result of being in harmony with your true self, including your shadow. Consider this. Your purpose is not only determined by your actions, but also by your identity. Your contributions to the world are shaped by the unique combination of your strengths, passions, and even struggles. The shadow is a necessary component of this equation. It is not an obstacle to your goal, it is a guidance. For instance, a person who has had a hard time feeling worthy may discover their purpose in helping others see their own worth. Someone who has experienced wrath or frustration may use that energy to create systems of justice or advocacy. Your wounds might be a source of wisdom for you. Now, let's discuss the most important insight of all. According to Jung, integrating the shadow not only changes the person, but it also has the capacity to change mankind as a whole. What is the reason? This is because you become more compassionate, understanding, and empathic when you face your own darkness. You understand that the difficulties you have encountered are not exclusive to you, but rather are a common aspect of the human experience. Imagine a world where more people embrace their shadows instead of projecting their fears and insecurities onto others. They would own them, heal them, and grow from them. Conflicts would diminish, understanding would deepen, and humanity would move closer to collective enlightenment. This is the true power of shadow work. It's not only about self-improvement. It's about contributing to a more conscious, connected, and caring world. As we close, I leave you with a challenge. Look within, not just at the parts of yourself you're proud of, but also at the bits you've hidden away. Ask yourself, what is my shadow trying to tell me? How can I apply its lessons to live more authentically? What actions can I take today to start this process of integration? Keep in mind that this is not something you do just once. It is a journey that lasts a lifetime. However, every step you take brings you closer to becoming the person you are meant to be, a person who is complete, purposeful, and has depth. As we wrap up, I would like to encourage you to share your thoughts, reflections, and questions. What have you learned from this investigation of the shadow? What has the most impact? Your insights could motivate someone else to begin their own journey. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter in which you accept every part of yourself and confidently enter the life you were destined to lead. I appreciate you coming along with me on this trip. As you continue to explore the depths of your being, I hope you find bravery, knowledge, and tranquility. I appreciate you taking the time to look.